Okay, so here's a weird one. Despite being an English teacher and having to speak to people all day long, I actually hate speaking with people. I'm okay when I'm Mr. Josh, the English teacher, but in any other kind of social situation, it's like I run and hide in a corner. But I do know of a technique that helps random strangers talk to other random strangers, especially if you're like me and you don't like doing it. And I teach this to my clients as a basic framework so that they're not having to think about, oh shit, I need to speak in English and think of something to say. So the technique is known as the Ford technique, and it's really simple and easy to remember. Now, even though this is basically like a framework for starting a conversation, you don't have to use all of them, and you don't have to do them in the order that I'm going to list them. This is just a way of you remembering how to start a conversation. So you can change it as you feel the need, okay? But let's go with the first letter, which is F. So F can be either friends or family. A question that you might ask someone to do with family could be quite simple. Like, do you have any brothers or sisters? Do you get on with your family? Anything like that. I know this sounds really like, hello. But that's the general gist. You're asking about the person's family. Who are they? What's their relation? Obviously, you can't do this with someone that you've literally just met because it sounds a bit creepy and weird. But sometimes what I've done in the past is if I've found myself trapped with someone, I'll say to them, do you know what? You look just like one of my cousins. And I'll pull out my phone and randomly scroll through my phone and find a picture of someone that is the exact opposite of the person in front of me. So if the person in front of me is like, a 50-year-old guy, I'll pull out a picture of like, a 27-year-old woman and say, look, absolutely identical. This usually provokes one of two reactions. Either the person thinks I'm an idiot, which I am, or it will make them laugh. And at least it breaks the ice, as the saying goes. And it gets the conversation started at least. So the F can also stand for friends. So you might ask the person, oh, do you know, Frank in accounting? Or why do I always say accounting? It shows a limited lack of knowledge on my part of what happens in the office world. But let's just call him Frank and he works in accounting. Like, you might just ask the person, do you know Frank? Or whatever, or who do you know? Because you're trying to make some form of connection. So some common ground to start with and then spread out from there. So, moving on to the next letter, which is O. And this is occupation. This is the easiest one to ask anyone, really. Especially if you are in a work environment, you can just say to the person, what division do you work in, or what do you do for the company, or whatever. The trouble with asking that question is that you're going to get a very straight one-word answer usually, like I work in IT, or I work in logistics, or whatever. So you want to follow it up with something else. You can be controversial and say something like, oh, your department doesn't do anything for the company, does it? Or, oh yeah, so that's where all the money's going in our company. Why am I not getting your salary? You can try and be controversial, or try and actually take an interest in what that person's doing and ask them more about their day or where they work or whatever, or who their boss is. It's anything just to get the conversation moving. So let's move on to R, and this stands for recreation, or basically, what's your hobbies? Now, me personally speaking, I always like to do the opposite of what's in front of me. So if someone in front of me is like quite chunky, overweight, I like to say something like, wow, you look like you run marathons for your hobby or something. Or the opposite, if someone looks utterly boring and very conservative, I'll say to them, wow, you look like someone who goes bungee jumping at the weekends. Just the opposite to make people start talking. So the R in this can also stand for relationships. So it's a bit like in F we had friends in common. You can also talk about relationships, about office politics and what have you, if you want to. Because at the end of the day, most people enjoy a good gossip at someone else's expense. It's just the way we are. Well, English people are anyways. And lastly, we come to D, which is your dreams or desires. So this can be anything from like, what's your dream vacation, to asking about what people are passionate about, their desires. Everyone has some passion, whether they like to talk about it or not. And this is for more like trying to get into more meaningful conversations with someone. You definitely don't want to use this at the very beginning. So that's the basic gist of the 4 technique. And the good thing about this is not just for ESL learners, it's for starting a conversation in any language, not just boring English people. And as I said, as a socially awkward person, I've had to use this myself many a time. Oftentimes during lessons with people who just will not talk to me. So, hey ho. But anyway, hopefully this is of some use to you, and I'm off now.